Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us at the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have Kinahan. He's the chief market strategist over at TD Ameritrade. With December retail trading trends with the Investor Movement Index, we're going to take a look at top buys and sells, as well as the 2019 year in review and his outlook for 2020. JJ, it's great to have you with me as always, and certainly no shortage of news to kick off this year. I was not expecting how busy it was going to be, but before we get into all that, IMX in December hits the highest level in 14 months.
It does. Historically, it's still middle of the range, so I would say that some of the cautions come off. But when I saw this, remember, our clients not only bought equities, they bought fixed income at the same time. So there's still a note of caution as client and broad-based ETFs as people look at the market overall. It was interesting to see that as the markets hit all-time highs in December, our clients had their biggest uptick all year in terms of exposure to the market overall.
Yeah, and top buys and sells, there was a pretty mixed bag.
It was a mixed bag. I thought it was interesting that Disney and Microsoft kind of led the way again. Disney 9 months in a row of being a buy. Obviously, people have been pretty well rewarded for it. And the interesting trend I saw was, you look at Disney, you look at Microsoft hitting 52-week highs. At the same time, you look at the sells, and the sells were many stocks: Facebook, Citigroup, Johnson & Johnson. These are stocks hitting 52-week highs that our clients want to sell. So I find it very interesting, the dichotomy between the two. And the Netflix, Netflix hitting the best level it's seen since July. Our clients were sellers, then buyers of Disney. That may be telling us something about the streaming wars overall.
Millennials too, not much cannabis this month for the buys.
Millennials are buying ExxonMobil and AT&T. It's like, who are you people? More so than our regular client base. I find that very interesting. What I did like to see is they were sellers of Tesla. Why do I like to see that? Not a comment necessarily on Tesla, but you and I talk every single month on this, and you'll remember that our millennial clients have been buyers of Tesla for much of the year.
Yeah, and I would say for 2019, if we took a look at the year holistically, millennials really have been ahead of the curve, and buying what has been cheap and selling where they've made their money.
They've actually absolutely done that. They have taken, we talked about the fact that maybe they took a little bit of a flyer on some of the cannabis-related stocks, but overall, if you look at this, what they've done this year, it's been very, very impressive. Tesla being a nice snapshot of it.
All right, 2020, we're 3 trading days in, and certainly a very different narrative when we came out last, Thursday before going into the new year. The narrative just changed on the overnight. It
did change on the overnight. Now, all that being said, I heard a lot of people really ringing the alarm bell over the weekend. I think we have to take a breath. What the markets told us this morning is, okay, when we opened, you saw a VIX near 16. Now, as you and I speak, we're about an hour into the trading day. It's about a little over, just under 15.
And that happened on Friday as well, too. We had the sell-off at the open, and then it trickled up higher.
Exactly. Now, gold is at a 7-year high, so that's interesting to watch. But gold has had nice momentum recently. I do think we have to keep our eye on crude oil in terms of inflation, et cetera. It's held the 60 level pretty convincingly. We needed to be convinced there. Now, can it get to 65? We haven't seen that yet. So, I look at the S&P, the futures, et cetera, the Nasdaq. We haven't seen this huge sell-off. Did we have a sell-off? Absolutely, and we should. But it isn't a time to panic. Let's take a breath, see what happens over the next couple of weeks. We know in these geopolitical situations, they don't settle immediately. There's a lot of emotion, and you'll hear a lot of rhetoric. Really, you can make a lot of parallels between this and the tariff situation in terms of both sides will saber rattle. Obviously, this one's a lot more serious because God bless, our military having to be involved in this one. But let's see if cooler heads prevail.
All right, and then when we talk at this time, 2021, we will have been through an election as well. There's a lot going on this year.
It is, and one of the things that, I believe if we have big moves, you'll probably see them more toward the front of the year, barring any crazy news, because as we get to the election, you may see more intraday moves that are big, but I believe the range will tighten.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also surprised to see that we haven't seen a lot of move within sector-specific policy as well. I feel like we haven't gotten to that point yet.
No, and I think we're a ways away from that, Jill, because we're very early in the cycle, and I think one thing the election of 2016 maybe told people is wait until you're closer to the election. The polls might not necessarily be right, so you want a little bit more certainty before you go and bet one way or the other.
JJ, thank you as always for joining us at Market
Always
Site.
a pleasure.
And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.